Before I begin, there's some things I want to clarify before I get into the story. Mainly, there's some assumptions / retcons I'm making, as we don't know the full story for them. One such assumption I'm making is with the old Kai. We don't know if he was a regular Supreme Kai or if he was a previous Grand Supreme Kai, though in Japanese, he's sometimes called Dai Kaioshin, which is what the Grand Supreme Kai is called in Japanese. So, in this story, I'm writing it as the old Kai being the previous Grand Supreme Kai before the Grand Supreme Kai we know. A retcon I'm making is that Garlic Sr. and Garlic Jr. are no longer separate characters. I'm combining the concept of the two into one character, so from here on out, I'll refer to Garlic Jr. just as Garlic. Also, I'll be writing the Dead Zone as something the gods use to steal dangers to the universe away and if they aren't able to defeat them. Another retcon I'm making is that Garlic will be more of a sorcerer instead of a regular fighter like Beerus. Next, the final retcon I'm making is that Garlic was a candidate for the God of Destruction along Beerus, instead of a candidate for the Guardian of Earth alongside Kami. There's also going to be a new character I introduce into the story, but I don't have art of them. If I ever commission art of them, I'll post it in a community post. The last change I'm going to make is related to Beerus. Since all the gods of destruction have alcohol puns for names, I don't think they were born with these names. So, I am writing it as if they get a new name when they become a god of destruction. So, I made Beerus' original name Malu from the Egyptian food Malfu Flashi. This movie will take place after the superhero movie, but the opening scenes take place millions of years ago. The opening scene is set before the old Kai fused with the witch. He is the Grand Supreme Kai, and his life is attached to the previous god of destruction. Since Beerus is a cat and he reminds me of the Egyptian cats, I decided to make the previous god of destruction another animal that was popular in Egyptian myths. The animal I chose was a crocodile, and I named this character Crew from Crew to Ptolemy. Crew to Ptolemy is a wine that is seen as a successor to the wine Cleopatra liked, so I thought it was fitting to base the name of a god of destruction off it. Regardless, Crew would be an old god of destruction that is getting ready to retire. Currently, he had two disciples, Garlic and Malu, and Garlic thought he was going to be chosen to be the next god. Garlic is a prodigy at being a sorcerer, but Malu is more of a prodigy in being a traditional god of destruction. So, there would be a close rivalry between the two of them. Eventually, Garlic was getting prepared to be chosen, so he was also trained in the ways of a god of destruction. He was even made mostly immortal, and the ritual to make him the god of destruction was about to happen, and his life was even linked to the old Kai's. But then old Kai gets distracted and fused with the witch. Now this doesn't change a lot, but with the witch's powers now at his disposal, the old Kai can see something about Garlic they previously couldn't. He would see that Garlic has a dark desire hidden in him for achieving his own goals of power, while Malu is more of an unbiased person towards the universe. So, Crew no longer decides to choose Garlic as his successor and chooses Malu instead. This, of course, angers Garlic, so he tries to attack Crew, Malu, and the old Kai. However, together, Crew and the old Kai seal Garlic away in the Dead Zone. But since Garlic is sealed away, they can't unlink his life from the old Kai's. Anyway, from there, they would do the required ritual to make Malu the next god of destruction, so the life link is now between Malu and the old Kai instead of Crew and the old Kai. This also is where Malu is told to choose the name he will go by as god of destruction, and he chooses the name Beerus. Another scene we get in the past is the argument between old Kai and Beerus. At first, they worked well together, but they eventually got into a trifling argument about who would get the last piece of fruit from an exotic planet. So, Beerus steals the old Kai away in the Z-Sword, just so he can get the fruit for himself. Though, because of this, Whis must use his powers to separate the life link between Beerus and the old Kai. We would then see the Grand Supreme Kai we know become the Grand Supreme Kai, and his life is linked to Beerus's. While that ritual is going on, as a gag moment, Whis takes the last piece of fruit for himself and eats it. We then skip forward to the present day, where Oil and Maki are on a mission for Frieza, but they are also searching for a way to get out from under his rule. They were currently on an unknown planet when they stumbled across a mysterious doorway. Of course, this is the entrance to the Dead Zone, but it is sealed shut. It normally can only be opened by the gods, but through some type of gag moment, they accidentally break the seal on the doorway. This is what frees Garlic from the Dead Zone, which, something to quickly mention is that we don't know how the inside of the Dead Zone works. We don't know if people can train inside of it or anything. For the sake of this story, I'm going to say Garlic was able to train inside the Dead Zone, and he also built up his army of demon henchmen while in there, as he recruited other demons that were sealed away. The sight of demons escaping the Dead Zone would terrify Oil and Maki, so they flee in terror. As for Garlic and his henchmen, now that he is free, he would begin to plot a plan to get his revenge on Beerus. By using his magic, he finds that Beerus is on his planet, but there are others there with him. So, he and his henchmen leave to go to this planet. Meanwhile, on Beerus' planet, Beerus and Whis are watching Vegeta and Goku spar with themselves. Even the Supreme Kai was there watching their fight, but he was originally there to have a meeting with Beerus. Anyway, they were currently sparring in their base forms like they did in the superhero movie. However, their sparring session is quickly interrupted as Goku and Vegeta are ambushed by Garlic and his henchmen. In this story, I was planning on making it so that his henchmen were rewritten versions of the 3 henchmen he had in the movie, along with rewritten versions of the 4 henchmen he had in the saga. So, in total, he has 7 different henchmen, but I still decided to call them the Splice Boys like they were in the Garlic Jr. saga. Anyway, before Goku and Vegeta can transform, the ambush on Goku and Vegeta succeeds in seemingly killing them. Garlic then utilizes a spell he had developed while he was training in the Dead Zone. He knew he wouldn't be able to physically fight and kill Beerus, as this would get the higher gods involved right away, such as Zeno and the Grand Priest. He also would know about how angels can't get involved in an affair of mortals, so he didn't have to worry about sealing Whis away. So, he just developed a spell that he could use to seal Beerus and the Supreme Kai away, which he would use the spell right away, so that the 2 gods are sealed away before they fully realize what is happening. After this, Garlic would take over the role of God of Destruction, as he then uses his magic to make his castle appear on Beerus' planet. Of course, Whis would have to work as an attendant to the God of Destruction, but it is also his duty to inform the Grand Priest and Zeno of what is happening. So, he would go up to Zeno's world to request an audience with Zeno, since it is an urgent matter, as it involves an involuntary change in the God of Destruction in Universe 7. Though in typical Dragon Ball fashion of having joke moments, the Grand Priest would tell Whis it will have to wait, as Zeno is in the middle of a game with his future self. So, the heroes are stuck dealing with this threat themselves. Eventually, Goku and Vegeta wake up on Beerus' planet, and they would see the castle Garlic had summoned there, though instead of rushing right in to confront him again, they go back to Earth to come up with a game plan and regroup with the other heroes. So, they would regroup at Castle Corporation and meet up with some of the other heroes. With a threat that so easily took out Goku and Vegeta, and sealed away Beerus, they figure they need all the help they can get. So, they end up recruiting Gohan, Piccolo, Krillin, Yamcha, Master Roshi, Tien, Shatsu, 17, and 18 to help them out. Regardless, all the heroes would then go to Beerus' planet via the use of Goku's instant transmission. When all the heroes arrive, it wouldn't take long for Garlic to notice their presence and send out his henchmen to take them on. Unlike earlier, the heroes would be able to easily take on the henchmen, as Goku and Vegeta got the chance to transform now. As Super Saiyans, and in combination with the other heroes, they would be able to take on his henchmen. Garlic would have been watching this fight go on, so when they get pushed back, he got an idea. His idea is to unleash the Blackwater Mist on Piccolo and Vegeta. He seen Gohan and Piccolo working together, so he decided to split the duo up by using it on Piccolo. As for Vegeta, he only decided to infect him and not both him and Goku as well, since Vegeta would theoretically be a good enough distraction, as he saw them fighting evenly on Beerus' planet earlier. Since Garlic is a sorcerer in this story, the Blackwater Mist is a spell instead of an item, so he casts a spell on both Vegeta and Piccolo. The 2 of them would try to resist this, but they weren't able to resist the strong magic, so they fell under the sorcerer's spell. With Goku and Gohan being the strongest of the heroes that aren't controlled by the Blackwater Mist, they're the best bet to take on Vegeta and Piccolo. While they're doing that, the other heroes would take on Garlic's henchmen. Since there are 7 of the henchmen and 7 of the heroes, they would split up to take them on. Krillin and 18 would team up to fight both Nikki and Sancho. At first, they would be beating the 2 henchmen back, up until the point they transform into their super form. When they are in this state, 18 would still have the upper hand, but Krillin would be pushed back. Of course, 18 would try to help Krillin, but he'd get an idea and fill 18 in on his plan. When they put their plan into action, he uses a solar flare and she uses the double destructive disc, which splits both Nikki and Sancho in half, thus killing them. And as for Yamcha, he is fighting against Vinegar, and he has the upper hand at first, and when he turns into his super form, he'd be beating down the former bandit. His spirit ball was even deflected and sent back towards them. Eventually, he would resort to trying to use a Super Kamehameha, but he gets into a beam struggle with Vinegar. He was losing this at first, but Krillin jumped in and helped him by using a Super Kamehameha too. This would push back Vinegar's blast and vaporize him. Master Roshi's fight against Ginger would be like the previous fight, since Ginger would be beating Roshi back with the use of his swords. So, Roshi would go into his buff form and manage to regain the advantage. Of course, this would push Ginger into using his super form. Like with the last fight, the fight would end with Roshi using a Kamehameha and vaporizing Ginger. However, he uses the greatest Kamehameha like he did in the Tournament of Power. This would end up killing him in a similar way to how Vinegar died. Unlike in the Tournament of Power, Roshi doesn't use too much of his life force, so he doesn't die as well. Like how 18 and Krillin teamed up, Tien and Shatsu would team up to take on Mustard and Salt. The duo would be going blow for blow with each other, but Tien gets an idea. He uses the Neo Tri-Beam to hold them in place like he did against Cell. This is when Shatsu would be able to step in and finish them off. So, he would use the barrage of his Dodon rays to kill Mustard and Salt when they are vulnerable. For the last henchman, 17 would get into a fight with Spice. With how strong 17 is, Spice would not stand much of a chance here. Even when using his super form, he can't do a lot, so he would eventually vaporize Spice with his Hellbreaker. Back with Gohan and Piccolo, their fight would begin. But Gohan would be reluctant on going all out against Piccolo, as he would worry about hurting him. However, he would also remember everything that went on in the superhero movie and that he can't always rely on the others to fight his battles for him. So even though he is reluctant to do so, he would know he's the only one that can take on Piccolo right now, as Goku is busy taking on Vegeta. Regardless, Gohan would try using his ultimate form first, but Piccolo would be able to do the same. With them going blow for blow, Gohan would try tapping into his beast form again, but Piccolo also tapped into his orange form once more. Since their fight would be long and drawn out, I'm going to talk about Goku and Vegeta's fight, since it has a slightly higher chance of not ending in a stalemate. Sure, the two are equals and would be going blow for blow with each other as well. Their fight would likely start in their base forms with neither able to gain the advantage. Even as a Super Saiyan, neither one can do anything against the other. While they could go through their Super Saiyan forms, I think they'd ramp it up to using Super Saiyan God next. Next, they try using their blue forms, but nothing changes then, either. The first time one of them gains the upper hand is when Goku uses his blue Kaioken form and Vegeta uses his blue evolution form. Goku would start being pushed back at first, when he is just using the regular Kaioken. So, he must push his Kaioken up to 20 times to fight evenly with Vegeta again. From there, Goku would begin to use his true Ultra Instinct form while Vegeta uses his Ultra Ego form. Now, we don't know the exact power scaling of these two forms in comparison to each other, but from the way their fight against Gas seemed to me, the two forms are equal in power. After fighting equally for a bit, Goku would have to use his perfected Ultra Instinct form even though it doesn't fit him as well, but it is stronger. Goku would use his slight advantage to knock out Vegeta the moment he gets the chance. Even though Vegeta is unconscious, he is still under the effects of the Black Water Mist. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dende would have been watching everything that was going on. While he couldn't directly help in the fight, he got reminded of something he learned back on Namek. The Namekians had a type of sacred water that used to be able to free people from curses, so he speaks telepathically to Mori to find out how to make this sacred water. Once he does and once it is made, he would telepathically contact Goku to inform him about this. So, after telling Gohan to keep stalling Piccolo, he uses his transmission to get to the Earth to get the sacred water. When he returns, Goku would use the water on the unconscious Vegeta. He also uses it on Piccolo once Gohan manages to grapple him and hold him momentarily. Once Vegeta regains consciousness, the four of them begin planning on how to confront Garlic, which, since they had a cure for the Black Water Mist, they decided to confront him directly. Vegeta and Piccolo would be resting from the beating they took, so Goku and Gohan start to fight Garlic. It wouldn't take long for them to use their true Ultra Instinct and Beast forms respectively, since even though Garlic is a skilled sorcerer, he still is a powerful fighter as well, though Garlic would be getting beaten back, as the two overpower him in these forms. While he was distracted like this, Piccolo would get the bottles Beerus and the Supreme Kai were sealed in, as he then breaks open the bottles. Now free and angered Beerus would get in between Goku, Gohan, and Garlic, as he decides to take on the Usurper himself. Even though Beerus is a lazy god that naps a lot, he still has trained since he fought Garlic all those years ago. He would still have the advantage over the sorcerer and would begin to beat him down. He was going to erase him, but this is when Garlic reminds him that his life is linked to the old Kai's, and since he is alive, he knows the old Kai is alive too. Beerus didn't really care about that old man dying, so he started to charge the Sakai. Though Goku would get in his way, as he wasn't going to let Beerus cause the old Kai to be killed. I think Beerus would only back down now since he erased Goku. Zeno and future Zeno would be mad that Beerus had erased their friend for seemingly no reason. Goku and Gohan would go back to fighting Garlic, as they continued to overpower him. Piccolo and Vegeta were still resting on the sidelines at the time. Regardless, they are winning until Garlic goes into his Destroyer form. It would be like a combination of a Super form and the Destroyer form we see Top use in the Tournament of Power. This allows Garlic to regain the advantage, as he began to beat the two down. Though they had to be even more careful now since Garlic's magic in combination with the power of destruction is a deadly combination. Regardless, Garlic retains the advantage until Vegeta and Piccolo recover enough to join in the fight. The four of them fighting together would be enough to overwhelm Garlic, so he was being pushed back. When he eventually gets a chance to catch a breath, he flies up and uses a spell he developed that can summon the Dead Zone. This is his last resort, and he begins to pull in everyone on Beerus' planet. It starts ripping apart Garlic's castle and Beerus' castle too. Since Piccolo, Vegeta, Gohan, and Goku were able to resist this at first, Gohan gets an idea. He has Piccolo, Vegeta, and Goku stall Garlic while he charges his attack. While trying to resist the Dead Zone pulling them in, Goku, Vegeta, and Piccolo would use attacks to try and stall Garlic. Goku would resort to using his perfected Ultra Instinct again to land some slightly stronger hits on Garlic. During all of this, Gohan was charging up a powered-up variation of the Masenko. He uses all his power to charge his blast, as he tells the heroes to move. He then fires his blast into Garlic, and while he resists at first, it pushes him into the Dead Zone. Beerus and the Supreme Kai then close the Dead Zone, so Garlic is sealed away again like he was all those years ago. Once Beerus lands on the ground, since Gohan was the one who made the plan to seal away Garlic, Beerus shows a rare moment of praising someone. This makes up for Beerus having forgotten about Gohan by the time of Superhero. Also, around this time is when Whis returned, and the Xenos and the Grand Minister had come with him, which makes Beerus freak out. Of course, Beerus would be scolded for letting the entrance to the Dead Zone be somewhere easily found by mortals. So, he is warned to hide it somewhere else, or he will be erased, as Xeno then takes his leave. Since joke moments are common in Dragon Ball, the story ends with a joke moment of Beerus making Goku and Vegeta rebuild his castle. He claims it's a part of their training, but it's actually because of the damage Garlic caused to it by summoning his castle, and it's a punishment for getting in his way earlier. He also does it to take out some of his anger about Xeno threatening to erase him. Lastly, Beerus leaves to hide the entrance to the Dead Zone.